Welcome to This Explainer. Look, today we're tackling something that's literally keeping every Australian financial advisor awake at night. Navigating this post-Royal Commission compliance environment is just incredibly tough. We're all asking, how do we meet these obligations without completely drowning in admin? So I'm grabbing a coffee today with a senior AI consultant who builds practical strategies for regulated professions just to get some straight answers.
Thanks for having me. I spend my days working directly with Australian businesses, and we're going to look clearly at what actually works, what's genuinely safe, and how your practice can use AI to get back to doing what matters most, advising your clients.
Okay, let's get straight to the reality of the situation. As a risk-aware practice principal, my daily life is honestly just pure friction. We desperately want to advise our clients, but instead we're spending our weekends doing endless paperwork just to keep the regulator happy. It takes a massive personal toll when you're sacrificing family time for compliance logging. So the big question is, how can financial advice practices actually survive the sheer volume of compliance administration today? Well, you're definitely not alone in feeling that frustration. The specific friction points dragging down Australian advice businesses every single day are incredibly heavy. We're talking about the endless hours drafting statements of advice, generating records of advice, and logging those detailed compliance file notes. Then you add in meeting strict ASIC regulatory obligations and managing ongoing client reporting. The burden is enormous, and honestly, it's exhausting. Every business has areas where time gets wasted, but in financial advice, this administrative drag is actively preventing you from doing the one thing you're paid to do, and that's spending face-to-face time with your clients. Right, and my immediate concern when anyone mentions using artificial intelligence to solve this mountain of paperwork is data security. I absolutely can't just dump sensitive client financials into a generic offshore AI tool. A data leak would threaten my entire license, and honestly, it would ruin my reputation overnight. That's exactly the right mindset to have. There's a stark contrast to consider here. Generic offshore AI tools expose your sensitive client data, and they completely fail to meet ASIC expectations. Regulated practices just can't compromise on this. What you actually require is strict data sovereignty and the kind of ironclad audit trails that regulators demand. So what's the actual alternative to those generic tools? The alternative is a sovereign AI operating system. The crucial point here is defining what that actually means for your practice. It's an artificial intelligence platform built specifically for Australian regulated professions. It's hosted locally to ensure complete data sovereignty, and it maintains a full audit trail. A prime example of this is Sunny AIOS. The system is engineered directly for licensed Australian financial advice practices that are operating under the financial accountability regime. Okay, but how does that infrastructure actually protect my clients from a technical standpoint? Sunny AIOS uses a safety-first infrastructure. It's hosted entirely in Australia on Sydney local zones. That means your client data literally never leaves Australian shores. Also, it's read-only by default to protect the integrity of your files. It maintains a full audit trail for every single action, and it integrates natively with the tools you probably already use every day, like Xplan, Advisor Logic, and Iris. That brings us to Section 1, built-in compliance guardrails. That covers the data security side of things really well. But how does the system actually know what ASIC requires of me? The regulatory landscape changes constantly, and keeping up is half the battle. Well, the system comes with a built-in standard financial advice legislation pack. Sunny reads these regulations daily. It actively monitors the Corporations Act, ASIC regulatory guides, the Financial Accountability Regime, the SIS Act, the Privacy Act, the FACIA Code of Ethics, and recent AFCA decisions. It maps those changes to your active client files automatically. This ensures best interest duty is integrated into your workflow from day one. Basically, you never get caught out by a quiet regulatory update again. Moving right along to Section 2, automating advice and audits. I really need to see how this translates to my actual day. Can you walk me through a concrete example of this working in a real financial advice practice? Absolutely. Let's look at the exact steps for automating the statement of advice workflow. Step 1, Sunny compiles the client goals, their portfolio, and the entire advice history into a single view before your review meeting. Step 2, the system cross-references those active files against daily ASIC and FAR updates. Then in Step 3, Sunny drafts the SOA with current regulatory citations and best interest reasoning already baked in. Finally, Step 4, this is where you, the financial advisor, review, adjust, and sign the document. The AI handles the heavy routine lifting, but the human professional always maintains the final sign-off. You never lose control. Okay, but what happens when the regulator actually knocks on my door for a random spot check? How do I prove my compliance if an AI drafted the document?
That's probably the most important question you could ask. Creating the ASIC audit trail is non-negotiable.
When an output is generated by Sunny, the system logs the exact timestamp and user. It captures the specific source data used, and crucially, it records the system reasoning. Every AI action is entirely explainable, evidenceable, and audit-ready. You can show the regulator exactly how and why a conclusion was reached.
Section 3 is the first 30 days. This all sounds incredibly powerful, but as a busy practice principal, the thought of implementing a massive new system is completely daunting. We barely have time to get our current work done. So, what does the onboarding process actually look like to get started? We firmly believe in diagnosing before we prescribe. That forms the absolute core of the onboarding journey. In week 1, we run an X-ray workshop to map your specific workflows and constraints. By week 2, the design phase identifies genuine leverage points and measures clear commercial outcomes. And then by week 4, a phased roadmap is delivered with real economics and a safe deployment plan. It's highly structured and ensures we only build what creates a measurable advantage for your practice. I really appreciate that it's not just handing over a software license and walking away, hoping we figure it out ourselves.
Exactly right. The quote we live by is that we build what is proven, not what is emerging or theoretical. We define commercial outcomes before we touch a technology stack. The team behind Sunny AIOS are operators. We know what friction costs a business. And we know that a solution actually needs to deliver clear value before a single line of code is written.
So for practice principals listening right now who are tired of weekend paperwork and just want to stop drowning in admin, where should they go? You can find your AI roadmap at sunburntai.com.au. I highly recommend booking an X-ray workshop. It's a fantastic way to sit down and understand exactly where AI will create value in your specific practice. Well, that brings us to the end of our explainer. It really leaves every risk-aware advisor with one final question to answer. Are you ready to let an Australian sovereign AI handle the compliance heavy lifting so you can get back to advising your clients? Head over to sunburntai.com.au to learn more. Thank you for joining us today.